Rob Riemen, nacido en Holanda en 1962. Es uno de los filósofos contemporáneos más importantes del mundo. Llega a la FIL Guadalajara con su más reciente libro para combatir esta era.
Bueno, seguimos en nuestra cobertura especial desde la Feria Internacional del Libro en Guadalajara y me da mucho gusto recibir de nuevo a Rob Riemen. Rob es un ensayista, fundador y presidente del Nexus Institute, un foro independiente de vocación internacional creado con el objeto de hacer debates, todo tipo de debates filosóficos, culturales y de reflexión intelectual. Rob ha publicado ya 4 libros, Nobleza de Espíritu, una idea olvidada, El eterno retorno del fascismo, La Universidad de la Vida y El regreso de Europa, sus lágrimas, hazañas y sueños. Rob, thank you very much for being here again. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Well, you're going to be here in the symposium about solidarity.
Yes.
And it's interesting because we just had here in Mexico a big earthquake. And many people show their solidarity. People were on the streets trying to help the other people. But it was 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, people went back to their homes.
Sure.
And we forgot about solidarity. What's going on with solidarity? What's your take on solidarity?
Well, I think in a civilized society, because this session is part of the great initiative to rethink what is civilization in the age of Trump.
Yeah.
And the march of the fascists in Warsaw recently, the concept of solidarity basically is gone. Mm-hmm. And with it, our concept of the common good is gone. And we should not be surprised, because if you see the dominant forces in our society are forces which or divide people or reduce our human identity. Mm-hmm. Capitalism will divide people between the haves and have-nots. Communism will divide in class society. Nationalism divides between our nation versus others. Yeah. Fundamentalists divide between we have the truth, you have no truth. Mm-hmm. And there is the reductionism of bureaucracy. System rules everything, technology, and so on and so forth. And so the question is, why is it that we have these forces there dominant, and why is it that we lost the notion of solidarity? And also, I mean, this is what I also will address when we have this session.
Yeah.
You just mentioned that I'm the founder of the Nexus Institute.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago we had a conference entitled Waiting for the Barbarians. And one of my guests,
like the novel of Coetzee.
Yeah, yeah, but I was more referring to the great poem of Cavafis, which I think is more interesting than.
Okay.
Anyway, not important. One of my guests was Marian Turski. Marian Turski, 90 years old, the founder of the Museum for the History of the Jews in Poland.
Okay.
Before the war, his name was Moshe Tuborski. Mm-hmm. He survived Auschwitz, Buchenwald, the Death March, and now founded that great museum in Warsaw. Mm-hmm. When we had the conference, Waiting for the Barbarians, I asked him, I said, Marian, can you tell us what is it to face barbarians and how to deal with it? And then he told the following amazing story. He arrived in Auschwitz. Mm-hmm. Like all the others, he was beaten by the SSers. Mm-hmm. He lost his spectacles, were destroyed. He said, with my bad eyes, I cannot survive Auschwitz without spectacles.
Yeah.
The good news is, in Auschwitz, you can buy spectacles. But you can buy them only with cigarettes or with bread. Mm-hmm. I had no cigarettes, but if I would give away my bread, I would die anyway.
Okay.
He said, but I was there with friends. And those friends decided to save a slice of bread every day so that he could buy his spectacles.
That's solidarity.
In the hell on earth.
Yeah, exactly.
People understood the imperative that self-interest is not the most important thing. Now, the response of our audience was one of awe and also feeling ashamed. Mm-hmm. Because how is it possible that in our affluent society we cannot bring up this notion to have solidarity and in the hell of Auschwitz it was possible.
And what's the reason behind that?
Well, the reason behind it is that's the second part of the session. We lost a sense of moral responsibility. There is no moral responsibility anymore. Responsibility refers to the fact that you respond. Mm-hmm. You respond to a call of what it means to be human. Herman Broch in The Sleepwalkers already writes about this. Yeah. With the decline of values, everything became compartmentalized and specialized, but the overarching value of truth and the capacity to live in truth and to know what human dignity is all about, again, that's gone. And because that's gone, we have all those other forces which brings us the violence, the corruption, return of fascism, etc., etc., etc. Now, here is the thing. What is the role of intellectuals? Because what is the role of the Republic of Letters? We are here in the setting of this beautiful book fair. We are here in the setting of universities who wants to organize this symposium. What is the role of intellectuals? Because I do think that we intellectuals have a special responsibility.
They are failing, would you say?
In an enormous way. And that will not surprise you. You know it as well as I do. Because first of all, the universities are brain dead. Are brain dead because they are not taking care for that liberal education which can give us a certain sense of wisdom. Students have become clients, they are selling a product and everything has to be useful. Wisdom, moral responsibility is not about being useful. That's one thing. The other thing about
so we lost the liberal, the old liberal tradition of,
it's no longer there.
Educating the people with values, with
universities
morals.
do not educate people. Universities are machineries and bureaucracies which sell the product, and that's with the product you can make some money, etc., etc. Yeah. But more important even is, and that even it comes first, an intellectual elite who gave up the notion of truth themselves. Call it postmodernity or whatever.
Yeah.
In general, intellectuals have become the useful idiots. With saying anything go, and there are no transcendental values, and there is nothing universal, and you have to all decide for yourself, etc., etc., etc. Well, then don't be surprised that those other forces come in. The other thing is, how much of the intellectual world became a kind of fashion models. Now all the books are there about Trump. Well, as we met the first time because I published my book Para Combatir Esta Era, and which is a book based on things I wrote 7 years ago. I mean, the terrible thing to be understood is Trump is not the real issue. Don't write books on Trump because that's not the problem.
Trump is the consequence. Trump is the symptom.
It's the symptom of the defect in our culture. That's the real topic, the defect in our culture. And the defect of our culture relates to an attitude of an intellectual class who gave up on the notion of universal values and transcendental values a long time ago.
But there is a paradox, Rob, because on the other hand, you can see now we have, in the history of the humanity, we are living in the more prosperous world that you can imagine.
Right.
No, prosperity is a fact nowadays. Second of all, it's kind of a peaceful time for humanity in comparison to other eras. And that's a paradox. There is economic prosperity, there is peace, and we don't have solidarity.
Yeah, okay, but so here again, here's...
Isn't it paradoxical?
It is paradoxical, but at the same time we are facing the consequences. It's not there to stay, the prosperity. We are here in a country, I've been told that 60, 70 million people are living below the line of poverty.
Yeah, there is controversy, but
anyway, so there are many poor people. There are many poor Mexicans in the United States of America. Yeah. So the economic inequality is growing.
Yes.
And the violence is growing as well. So again, these are natural responses for the fact that we lost fundamental things. And the fundamental things, just to summarize, is that solidarity can only exist as long as we keep in mind that mankind has to be united. united mankind is not based on the fact that we are living in a totalitarian uniform society in which everybody is the same, but that we can accept the huge diversity given the fact that our identity is larger than what divides us. That our identity, our true identity, is based on the fact that we can all live in truth, that we can all do justice, that we can all create beauty. Now, again, the intellectual class was one of the first to tell people these things do not matter anymore. And the left gave it to the right, and the right says, thank you, we can use this for our own political agenda, etc., etc. And the business class will say, well, thank you, because now we can pursue how to make more money. Yeah. And the political class will say, well, thank you, because we can now continue to pursue our self-interest, etc., etc., etc. So a sense of moral responsibility has to reawaken, not as a form of an ideology, but as a sense of what the common good is. And
cooperation, would you say? Cooperation among the individuals within a community?
Look. You know this phrase, I'm not my brother's keeper, right? Mm-hmm. Mankind has killed Abel, and God asks, where's your brother? And he says, I'm not my brother's keeper.
Yeah.
Am I my brother's keeper? And the answer is yes, you are your brother's keeper.
But you come from a country that we in Mexico see you, the Netherlands, and Sweden and Norway, as countries that have achieved that kind of cooperation, of solidarity. They have a welfare state. And what's happening there? I mean,
what's the last time you were in the Netherlands? I guess a long time ago.
A long time ago, now that you mentioned it.
Don't believe.
No, but you used to be a very advanced society in that regard.
Yes. In the 17th century we had Rembrandt and whatever. Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago. Don't believe the propaganda.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, first of all, we could build our welfare state.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that the Americans paid for NATO. I mean, in this respect, Trump is right.
Yeah.
But also this is disappearing. We see that the EU is falling apart.
Yeah.
The EU is falling apart, and there is no solidarity. I mean, talking about solidarity, come on. There is a refugee crisis. In many ways, the West is extremely complicit in having the crisis there in Africa and in the Middle East, right?
Absolutely.
And in our country we have this serious discussion if we can have more than 25,000 refugees, because if there would be more than 25,000, they would destroy our culture. That's what the Netherlands is all about. I mean, and so we still keep doing this Anne Frank thing, right?
Yeah.
And we want you to believe Anne Frank, and it's bullshit. It's simply not true. It's not only the case. I mean, in Sweden the same thing. So the ultra-nationalism, the racism, it's all there, and it's very out there, and it's very outspoken. Again, these forces,
even in the Netherlands, that's what you're saying.
Look, I wrote my book Para combatir esta era because we were one of the first to start with the return of fascism. Okay?
Yeah, I remember that.
So there's so again, these things are not new. It is as old as the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. Okay? Yeah. We know these things. We know that nothing of value is there to stay all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
So you have to protect it, and everybody has to take a certain responsibility. Now, if so much of the media is just about stupidity and games and entertainment, then what to expect? Here in this hotel you have all kinds of television screens. The only thing I see is soccer.
Yeah.
And if the, again, you can make a whole list. If the political class is corrupt, and it is corrupt, if the financial world is only interested in financial things and is therefore corrupt, if the academic world is only interested in footnotes and nothing else, if the intellectuals are spreading this nonsense of, there are no eternal values and then, don't be surprised.
I have time for one more question. Of course, with you, I can spend like 12 hours talking to you. But
next time.
I have just one question. How do we start to resolve that? Where do we start?
Okay, well, by accepting your own moral responsibility.
It's an individual thing.
It's always an individual thing. It's always an individual thing.
Okay.
As long as you keep ignoring ratings and just make very good interviews about important things and then make sure that people can see it, you do a great thing. If your bosses realize, okay, the ratings of Leo Zuckermann's program are a little bit, but it's important for us, so we keep it on prime time and not in the middle of the night, they are doing a good thing. If a politician...
Tell them exactly.
Yeah, no, they are there to serve. If they don't do that, don't talk about freedom, don't talk about democracy, just say, I'm only interested here in myself, my own ratings and my own income, okay? But, so, the other way to put it is, cut the bullshit. There is too much bullshit, there is too much lies, there's too much intellectual and moral corruption. Forget the financial corruption, that's a sideshow. The intellectual and moral corruption, that's more worse.
Well, thank you very much, Rob, and thank you for saying that. And we are going to keep doing this
keep it in the program.
Analysis and debates, of course. And thank you very much. It's really a pleasure. And you know, whenever you come to Mexico, you have an open space here in our show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gracias a Rob Riemen, perdón. Regresamos en un momento más. Seguimos aquí en la Feria Internacional del Libro de Guadalajara.